SA had been waiting decades to bring her daughter and now her grandson to the U.S., where she is a legal resident, from her native El Salvador, where she escaped violence and poverty. Through a special immigration program, she was finally close to her dream. In February 2017, she made a final payment of $2,500 to the U.S. for her family's flights. They were told by authorities they would be given final documentation and a plane ticket to travel in 2 weeks' time, but months went by, and nothing ever came. Without notifying them, President Trump's administration had already frozen the program just days into his term, even as it solicited and collected thousands of dollars from SA and others like her who had been granted conditional approval, according to a new lawsuit that argues the administration broke the law and was driven by racial animus against Latinos. For SA, the news was as shocking as it was devastating. It hurts me every day that we are apart. The Central American Minors Program, which reunited children and other eligible family members with parents legally residing in the U.S., was one of Trump's early targets as he sought to crack down on legal immigration. Designed during the Obama administration to avoid the scenes at the U.S.-Mexican border that have gripped the nation this week, its termination is now being blamed by some for worsening the migrant crisis and possibly sending more children north. Ending this did exacerbate the situation on the border. When the program shut down, now these individuals have no choice but to remain in daily danger or to try come to the United States by land, said Linda Everts, an attorney with the International Refugee Assistance Project, which helped to bring the case. The administration's unprecedented, unexplained, and unsupported secret shutdown of the program is also under fire for how it was carried out, with little to nothing communicated to recipients months after the decision was seemingly made and no real explanation ever given. Lawyers also contend that the real reason was discrimination against Latinos. On the cusp of being reunited, it's now left families, like SA, who asked to go by her initials out of fear for her safety and that of her family in El Salvador, out of options and money. Crying, she told ABC News in an interview, "I plead to the president to find it in his heart to consider us. I'm asking for compassion from the president." Central American Minors Program. In 2014, more than 50,000 minors reached the southern U.S. border seeking asylum from the violence-racking 3 Central American countries: El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. The largest wave yet of child migrants, it forced the Obama administration to take a multi-pronged approach, sending millions more in aid to the 3 countries, detaining families who had crossed the border illegally, until a court ordered them to stop 2 years later, and creating a path for children to come here legally. That path became the Central American Minors, or CAM, program, which allowed parents lawfully present in the U.S. to apply for refugee resettlement or a temporary status called parole for their children and other eligible family members, the child's other parent or caregiver, or the child's own child, the parent's grandchild. When I heard about the CAM program on the news, I was filled with joy at the possibility of being reunited with my family, SA said in her sworn statement as part of the lawsuit, adding in her interview with ABC News that she and her daughter finally had hope that her daughter could come here for a better future for herself and her son. In total, the U.S. received more than 14,000 applications from children and other family members. Families had to prove their relations through a DNA test, applicants had to be interviewed by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, and applicants had to meet the definition of a refugee, someone outside the U.S. who is fleeing persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion or membership in a particular social group. If a CAM applicant did not qualify for refugee resettlement, they were automatically considered for parole status and informed of whether or not they were granted it when they got their refugee decision. Parole allows non-U.S. citizens to enter the country for a period of time on humanitarian grounds, although it does not automatically provide a path to legal status. Similar programs were created in the past for Vietnamese fleeing in the 1980s, Filipino World War II veterans, and certain Eastern Europeans after the collapse of the Soviet Union. CAM parole applicants had to prove they were not a risk of harm, had cleared background vetting, and had someone to financially support them. Once they were granted approval,